Alright, welcome to Pansy Plays. Hey, we're playing Tribes of Midgard here in Season 5. We've done some videos in the past, probably back in Season 3. We had one in Season 4 that I don't think ever made it live. I might post it eventually, but we did it. We made it. Here is Season 5. My goal here in this video mostly is just to kind of give a base breakdown of kind of how to play and answer a lot of burning questions, and by burning I mean basic questions, stuff that's how do I play this game? What am I doing? Why do I feel bad at this? So yeah, I want to kind of go through just a couple of quick basic getting started. You know, for anyone that didn't really want to click the tutorial and kind of wants to get into Saga mode, I will leave survival for another day, another video. I feel like there's plenty of stuff on survival, and that one kind of walks you through hand in hand fairly easily. But this will cover mostly just game mechanics and things that are important just about how to play the game and the kind of flow of it. So, starting right off, let's get into it. Into kind of our progress tab here that's going to give us a bunch of really good information. Challenges, that's a good sense of completion if you're looking for something to do other than just get good at the game. Classes is really important for Saga. That really kind of determines how you play. Recipes we'll come back to here in a minute, and journal is going to tell us where to get the things we need for the recipes. So I'm really big into classes. If you've seen a bunch of my videos, I've done a really good breakdown, or I think I've done a good breakdown. Actually, most of them could use work, but that's okay. There are 8 classes for Tribes of Midgard. If you haven't gone through and unlocked them in the class challenges yet, they'll tell you how to get specific ones that you have a certain set of challenges to do to unlock them. They're not very hard. You can get them knocked out fairly quickly. So just off the bat, a good way to look at it is the red ones are all about attacking. Berserkers all about just holding down left click. Warriors much more of, and sorry, when I say left click, I need to be a little more agnostic in the terminology between controller and PC users. I definitely play on the PC, always have, and so a lot of the terminology I will use will be based on PC, but obviously still works for controller as well. So this is just what I would call basic attacking, just your main attack button, and you're just doing it a bunch over and over and over. Warrior is going to be more of attacking with your main attack and then using the abilities, or what are known as spells, within each individual weapon. So warriors are really great all-rounder class, and it is a starting class for a reason. It's really good and really straightforward. So I will do a full video on a warrior build and a recommended Saga warrior build for everyone to try out. And then the other one that I'm going to do is my personal favorite, the Ranger. I really enjoy the Ranger. It is one of, it's pretty much, in all the weapons, it just uses bows. Nothing but bows. Everything's all based around bows. Any class can use bows, but they have the most advantage with bows, and all their skills are honed into bows. So if you plan on playing Ranger and you plan on doing something other than using bow, I'm fascinated to see what your build is and why you're doing that. So effectively bows only. So at the very beginning, you only have the warrior and the ranger, and at that point, you know, it's, do I want to go melee or ranged? It's a super easy decision between the two. Do I want to play with bows or do I want to play with melee weapons? Picking between the two at the very beginning. So real easy decision making. I'll continue kind of the breakdown from here. Purple is going to be kind of your scouting type. They're great at finding points of interest, and tracking down specific resources or exploring areas. Ranger has a further zoom. They have movement speed bonuses. They're able to maneuver really easily. The Hunter has increased fog of war reveal with increased ingredients from harvesting, as well as decoys that allow them to get in and out of camps a whole lot easier. So if you think about it this way, this is all about just smacking stuff. You just smack them a bunch, you just make it dead. And purple is going to be your recon, gonna go scout out and find everything. Blue is your defense. These are all your defensive classes, and yellow is going to be your support style class. That's going to be there just to support your team. Guardian, just on a quick overview, is all about chucking up the shield and really just being just a total beefy, tanky, don't touch me, I got a big, real strong shield. They get the ability to taunt to kick it off the bat, a pretty classic tanking move, but when they block damage with their shield, they build up this lovely thing called Pain Release, which gets pretty wild once they release. Do a Pain Release. It does a pretty big AoE, does a ton of damage, and it's pretty fun to play. The kind of general consensus right now is they're not super good versus most of the bosses, is where they kind of fall short. They're great at taking on mobs of enemies, but since the bosses are attacking one person at a time, and most of them you can't lock onto for some reason, they're not amazing at that. But otherwise, hordes of enemies, Guardians, great choice. Am I able? Oh, I can just do that. That's kind of fun. I can use arrow keys. Sentinel is much more of a combat shield. You know, you hold down your shield, you get a big AoE buff. You do shield throws, you have shield spells. If you ever just want to live your Captain America dreams, Sentinel's the way to go. Seer is kind of your elementalist. They're the only class that has elemental bonuses for all of them. Sorry, has a elemental bonus for all 4 elements. The Seedling allows you to drop a little AoE heal, so effectively you're the equivalent of a healer, and you also have an AoE aura that reduces temperature effects. This allows you to move your team or anyone that you're partnered with, or just by yourself, in and out of hot or cold areas with less of an armor requirement. I think this is a great starter class and a great solo class, so I play a lot of Seer as well. These are kind of my two, and I really enjoy them. Warden is an interesting kind of eclectic mix of what's left over. I usually refer to the Warden as miscellaneous. They have a lot of versatility, but they kind of don't do anything well. Their whole shtick is they have their Waystone. Whenever you get in the game, you have the ability to teleport back to your village at any point. The Warden can go back to where they originally teleported from after they used it to return to base, so they're able to get home quicker and back out in the field quicker. They have the ability to reduce their... Pretty much they need to repair less frequently. They also have the ability to create walls and ramps for free, which is a really niche and cool ability. They have decreased crafting costs, so pretty much whenever you're in a big party and you're organized, everyone puts in their order of, hey, I need, you know, this armor set, or hey, I need this weapon, and you're the guy that builds it. They send it over to you. This is more Waystone stuff, and then you have a 6 rune slot, which is just a good thing, and then increased potions, so it's just more of the same. Buying and selling is a weird mechanic, and retain all materials upon death. You shouldn't be dying in the later game, but early game, it's a good to have when you're still getting used to stuff. So that's kind of general breakdown. Red, damage. Purple, scouting. Blue, defense. And yellow is the supporting the rest of the team. So, alright. That is a good breakdown of just kind of the classes whenever you're trying to figure out what your playstyle is. And I strongly recommend picking a class and just learning that class and getting good with it and building out your own blessing tree. You can see there's fairly widespread of blessings to pick from, and you only have 9 points to spend, so keep that in mind. So you're not going to be able to fill out the tree every time. So I'll do more of a breakdown on the trees later, but for now I just want to cover that. Within the recipes, there are a wide variety of all the different weapons and armors, different elements attached to each weapon. For Saga, we are going to focus solely on anything that's not gold, because these cost golden horns to buy, and you don't actually need them to complete the saga at all. It just makes it easier. I think you definitely want them in survival in some of the later challenges, but as far as Saga is concerned, if you're just having trouble getting through content, you're welcome to spend golden horns to make it easier, but in all reality, once you actually get a good handle on the game, you don't need it at all. Purple is good enough. So, most weapons are going to have a element once they get to the higher levels. So as you can see the difference between the axe, you can see a little lightning bolt. Hang on if I can do this. There we go. So right here, there's a lightning bolt, indicates it is a lightning weapon. There's nothing here, indicates it's not. So lightning, dart, fire, ice. So ice, fire, dark, lightning. There you have it. Kind of talking through, as you look through these weapons and kind of figure out what playstyle you want, what this panel here is, this shows you what you need to make it. So I need 9 pieces of stone, I need 5 Lenorm spikes, I need 2 mushroom moon bolts. Alright, we'll get into where to get all that and what that means, but it's a good thing to actually have an idea of what you need whenever you're going to try to get a gear progression. This right here means that there's a passive effect that applies to it because of the weapon. There's not really a good place where it's recorded, so I can kind of talk through it just a second. Paralyzed is just a stun. You have a chance just to make your opponent incapacitated just for a couple seconds. Get some free shots in. Void is going to be armor rend. That means they're going to take more damage, so you can actually rend their armor and do more damage, and you and your allies can do more damage. Burn is just a DOT, sets a little dot on them, they do a little damage over time. And then Cold is a slow, so they have a slower move and attack speed. So you have a stun, a armor rend debuff, a damage over time, and a slow debuff. So up here are going to be the first ability and second ability. On PC, that is the equivalent of your right click and your E. Green weapons will only have just the right click. They only have the ability 1. Purple weapons will have the ability 1, ability 2, right click and E. Purple will just upgrade your blue or your secondary into an improved version of it. Gold, green a third, which will be the equivalent of your R. So you have a first, a second, and a third ability. These are, honestly, these are always just a lot of fun. I wouldn't say that they're the best DPS for the weapon, but you know what? It's just fun to use. So there you have it. That's kind of the general breakdown. There's 5 weapon types in the game. You have 2 one-handed weapons, 2 two-handed weapons, and then a ranged weapon to pick from. And then 4 different elements: lightning, fire, dark, and frost. And there's a lot of combinations. They're not every combination of each weapon, so you can't pick frost and hammer because there's not a frost hammer. Or you can't pick sword and lightning because there's not a lightning sword. With the exception, of course, if you want to go in to get Baldur's Blade, which is a golden horn requirement. But you can just work your way up. And for some reason they just decided Alva's Spear was good enough and didn't need a 3rd version. Okay. So yeah. So general recommendations as I kind of close out this chapter before we get into our run is first figure out what your playstyle is. I think that most of the playstyle comes from the classes of, hey, do I just want to be hitting stuff all the time? Do I really like kind of doing hitting, fade, in and out, long range, or just looting camps and disappearing? Do I want to be just in the mix of it, unkillable, shielding up, or do I want to take on more of a supporty role? Once you figure out that, then you can kind of go in and decide what weapon you want. Or you could go the other way and say, hey, you know what? I'm super big into spears. I just love spears, and what class do I need to play in order to just optimize on spear? Then great, go that direction as well, because each class is going to be better with certain weapons than others. For an example would be Guardian. You can see Guardian has 2 masteries of axe and sword, which makes perfect sense. Those are the 2 weapons that use a shield in the offhand. So with all of the abilities being based around shield, you probably wouldn't want to use a spear or hammer, considering how you can't use the shield at the same time. So, if you're thinking about sword or axe, Guardian could be good. If you're thinking about playing Guardian and tanking, take a look at swords or shields. Or sorry, swords and axes. So, that's kind of the way to approach that. And if you're playing bow, you play Ranger. Or if you want to play Seer, you could play anything you want. They have a sword mastery, but they have all elements, so a lot of different ways to approach it. We'll go into it more later, but hey, that's just kind of my place that I would start for anyone that's looking to kind of figure out, whoa, there's a bunch to pick from. How do I do this? Start with a class, figure out a playstyle that you want to approach in, then go from there. Pick a weapon you like, get used to it, and go from there. I will say a quick little breakdown is swords are kind of like the mid-range. They got a little good range of a sweep. They have a nice area of effect and a medium attack speed. Villager have a low area of effect with a high attack speed. Hammer has a high area of effect with a low attack speed. And Spear is kind of interesting in its own. It has a good range and a good hits for a good amount of damage. But you're fairly open considering how it's much more all forward and not an AoE, so you got to be kind of careful. It's a much different play style, so Spear's cool. Alright, let's jump into the next one. Yeah, thanks for watching this one. If you're looking for just a general introduction, the next video will be mostly focused on going into a Saga mode run and talking about resources and where to find everything and getting into the biomes. Stay tuned.